Hello and welcome to yet another very exciting episode of Eye on the Money, the television show that gives you insights into how to improve your financial well-being as well as make your money work for you. I'm Ingrid Nantege. Now, M-Akiba is a government bond sold through the mobile phone and was launched in 2017. It's a 3-year bond sold in denominations as small as 3,000 Kenya shillings with an interest rate of 10% paid semi-annually and a tax-free status in line with other infrastructure bonds. Through their mobile phones, retail investors can open securities accounts, purchase, pay, receive periodic interest and principal amount invested and trade their securities in the secondary market. In June this year, M-Akiba hit a subscription rate of 75% to register a 187.5 million shillings uptake. Joining me in studio to explain why M-Akiba should be your go-to investment choice is the Head of Business Development at the Nairobi Securities Exchange, David Irungu. You're very welcome to the show, David.
Thanks Ingrid. I'm really delighted and excited.
Who better to talk about these issues than you, Head of Business Development, Nairobi Securities Exchange?
No, it's a great honor. And even to be here, I like even the name of the show, Eye on the Money.
That was mine.
Yes.
I came up with that.
So I'm really the one who's privileged.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, so thank you so much for hosting me.
And also, M-Akiba, I'm sure there's so many questions surrounding this. And of course, unless there's some few Kenyans who've been living under a rock.
Yes.
And if those Kenyans actually exist that have been living under a rock, I want for you to help us today, help them understand what M-Akiba is.
All right.
We'll just begin with the basics. Let's assume some people out there don't know.
No, I'm really honored, and it's not people living under a rock.
Yeah.
Actually, I take it as responsibility on our part because not everybody really understands the nitty-gritties of it. So even having such a show is really good because we get to break down. Every time I get questions, even on my Facebook, people are asking, okay, how is M-Akiba? Is it closed? When is the next offer? So there are so many questions, but people would like to understand the nitty-gritties, and I'm here for us to break it down.
Right, let's break it down.
All right.
So what is M-Akiba?
So M-Akiba is a mobile retail bond. What that simply means is that you can actually get to invest through your mobile phone. And when we talk about a bond is like a loan that you give either to a corporate or government, and then they promise to pay you back every maybe so often, mainly 6 months, and then at the end of the period, you get your money back. And the fact that it is retail means it is not for corporates. Those are big institutions. It's for the Kenyans, you and I, anybody who is out there to get to invest in it. Maybe I can tell you a bit of some history.
Please.
Yeah, so M-Akiba, in 2015, we launched the first M-Akiba marketing campaign where we were to talk to the market and sensitize people about that. Before that, when we were starting in 2015, part of the things that made us do this thing was, of course, from government. They wanted to have as many Kenyans get to invest. The reason being, in Central Bank, we had 18,000 accounts back then. And out of that, only 2% were retail investors. That means out of a population of 45 million Kenyans back then, only roughly like 500 or 360 were the ones investing in government bonds. So the government wanted to have as many Kenyans get to invest in this asset class. And it is interesting that even the numbers that are there in the government bond market, they are really staggering. Back then, I remember getting a statistic of 220 billion as the interest that is being paid out to the people who've invested, the 18,000 that were there.
Wow.
Yeah, and that is quite a huge amount. It's, I think, bigger than any profits of any company in Kenya right now. But it was only going to a few people and also to the various banks that had invested. So how much more than to have the Kenyans also eat the national cake? So that's how M-Akiba came to being. And of course, for us to have as many Kenyans access it, we needed to simplify the whole process. We needed to demystify. Actually, I like to say M-Akiba is about 3 things.
Right.
1 is simplicity, 2 is convenience, and the third one is great value.
Right.
Simple, because how to access it is through any type of phone. So Kenyans have different types of phone. Of course, you have smartphones. But even with Kabambe, Kadunda, Mulikamwizi, any type of phone, you can actually get to invest. And then how do you access it? It's very simple. You dial *889#, and anytime, especially when we have an offer, it is 24 hours available. So you can actually get to access through the comfort of your mobile phone. So that lends to the second advantage of M-Akiba, which is convenience. So wherever you are, you can actually get to open an account. Previously, let me just shed some light. I tried to open a bond account previously. So you had to get the forms, fill in, and once you filled in, you go to your bank. they get to verify that you're actually banking with them, and then you go to maybe get a water bill, your rent, maybe your landlord to confirm. You take that to mainly to a CBK, and then after that it will take you roughly now 2 weeks. So the whole process roughly would take 21 days.
Wow.
But through M-Akiba, in under maybe 30 minutes, you can get your account, everything on the mobile phone. So all you need to do is just dial *889#, and you're already in. That's why we are saying it's very convenient. There are 2 requirements. One, you have to have a national ID, and secondly, to be registered to a mobile money service. Currently, we have M-Pesa and Airtel Money. So once you've registered on any of those 2 mobile money providers, you can actually get to invest in M-Akiba. So that is the mechanics. And then the third one is great value. When you talk about great value, is that today before the show, I actually checked the central bank website, and I saw what are the rates of the bills and that are available. So the treasury bills are also short-term. Bonds are long-term, and bills are short-term. So when you invest in a corporate, when you invest in a treasury bill, that is a short-term instrument that.
So this is all available under M-Akiba. You can either.
No, that's under central bank.
Right.
So these are the different types of bonds and bills that we have. So bonds are long-term.
Right.
So for when you hear there's a government bond or a T-bill or a treasury bond, that's long-term, from 2 years and above. So M-Akiba, like you mentioned, is 3 years. And so then bills are less than 1 year. So we have a 364-day, because for bonds, we convert the years into days. Every day it will be accruing interest. And then now we have the 364, 182, and 91-day T-bill. So that's a quarter year, half a year, and a year. So for M-Akiba, where it is right now, it's actually getting into that threshold. But it is very competitive, because the 1 year T-bill is currently going for 8.7%. M-Akiba is, and that one is going to be taxed. And the minimum threshold is 100,000. M-Akiba, it's only 3,000. And after that, you can even top up 100. The minimum is actually 1 unit. So people can actually get in. So what I'm saying is that it is very competitive. And even when you look at investing, even right now, maybe there's no other instrument that gives you a guaranteed return compared to M-Akiba in terms of for that amount and even the duration of the 1 year.
Right.
So it is really a good investment with a great return of 10% that is tax-free. Yeah, so the magical word is tax-free.
Tax-free.
The reason why it is tax-free is because it is an infrastructure bond. We said it was a 3-year bond.
Right.
And like you rightly said, in June, we reopened it. When we reopen it, it actually is now available for people to still buy. So you're buying and getting the 10% for a shorter period, for only right now the M-Akiba is 12 months. It's 14 months, and then the other one is actually even less. It's actually 8 months, because it is an October. It is in April and October that it's an October bond. Yeah. So anyway, I'll just go again and reiterate. So M-Akiba is about 3 things. So simplicity, convenience, and great value. Yes, and the great value, if I may still add, is not just because of the 10% tax-free return, which is great. It's also because it is starting you on an investment journey.
Right.
Maybe you've been thinking, I want to start investing, and maybe I want to put in a lot of money and put in the stock market, or maybe even in real estate and all that. M-Akiba gives you the easiest way to start, because for only 3,000, you can actually start your investment journey. Actually, I'll end this session with a quote by the Chinese. They say the best time to plant a tree is when?
I haven't been to China yet, but I'm planning on going.
Don't worry.
Tell me, please give me incentives.
So the best time to plant a tree, they say, is 20 years ago.
Okay.
So the next best is now.
Right.
Yeah. So again, that same also applies for investment. So the best time to start investing was 20 years ago. The next best is through
at this moment.
*889#. Yes.
Right.
Actually, right now, if you're watching, you can take out your handset and dial *889#. There's free registration, and you can. And
hopefully, as we carry out this conversation, they'll pick up pointers. Actually, I feel like it's a good idea. If they're watching right now, just take out your phone. We'll walk them through this conversation we're having on Eye on the Money.
Yeah.
But now, David,
tell me.
You've given us very, very good background information as regards to M-Akiba. You've talked about the simplicity, the convenience, the great value. You've mentioned that it's guaranteed returns. And I like how you mentioned that, because I was going to ask you, the government is involved.
Yes.
It's a government bond.
Yes.
And usually when you hear the government, you know for sure
Yeah.
you're going to get paid.
Yes.
But then for people who are out there and they already have their phones in their hands and they've already, you know, dialed the prompt that you've mentioned, and they're probably asking, how then do I make my money?
All right.
Just simplify it for us.
Okay.
How does our viewer out there make the money?
All right. No, that's a good one. And I'd also ride on something that you've just said. Government. You know, when people hear government,
Yes.
sometimes, well, most people may trust government. Others will be a bit skeptical. But just to allay any fears that are there, is that we call it a bond for a reason.
Right.
You see, when we are talking casually, I can say, you can take my word to the bank.
Yes, take it to
That
the
means
bank
it
and
is
cash
bankable.
it.
Yes,
Yeah.
that means you can rely on it. And then the banks put their money in bonds. That's why they say your word is your bond.
Right.
So it's actually even a safer instrument. So that means all the banks in Kenya right now,
Yes.
they invest in government bonds. So by investing in M-Akiba, what it means, you're going to be in the same level as banks.
Right.
And the first people to be paid in this country are bond holders. Before anybody else has been paid,
that
civil
so?
servants, even tenders, before they are paid, bondholders must be the first ones to be paid. Otherwise, the whole economy would have an issue.
Right.
So how do you make money? Through M-Akiba. So like we said, it is a guaranteed safe instrument. By it being guaranteed means it has a very low risk. Actually, I've had the privilege of being in an investment committee in our organization, and one of the things that we check and always benchmark as corporates when investing, we first consider government paper. That is the safest. So what we are saying is that you and I can start our investment journey on a government paper, which is has very low risk.
Right.
And how you get your money, like we defined a bond, it's like a loan. So assume you've given someone a loan and they will pay back.
Right.
So it's not just about the return on the money, how much you've made. It's the return of the money. So for M-Akiba, there's a return of the money and a return on the money. So after, like M-Akiba, if we invest, we have two M-Akibas, so M-Akiba 1 and 2. Let's take maybe M-Akiba 2, for example. So if you invest in M-Akiba 2, it pays twice a year. So how bonds are structured is that every year, the bond is divided into 364 days for a year.
Right.
And then everyone, they pay interest. So M-Akiba pays twice a year for the next, so right now we are in, we paid in March, then the next interest payment will be in September.
Right.
The next interest payment for M-Akiba 2 will be in March 2020, and the last interest payment will be in September 2020. So that means every 6 months there'll be a payment of the interest, and then the last payment in September 2020, you get all your money back. And then we also have M-Akiba 1. Should you want to invest in M-Akiba 1, it is normally, maybe I can just even simplify and take this opportunity to explain how bonds work.
Please.
So bonds, based on the interest payment, you can have different types of bonds. So we have what we call JJ bonds. A JJ is actually January, July. That's when they pay. The next one is February, August.
Okay.
And then the other one is March, September. So every 6 months, that's when they pay. So for M-Akiba, like M-Akiba launched in 2017, September. So it is a September, March bond. So that's how come I can tell you when it is going to pay next.
Right.
And then the other one is launched in April 2017. That's when we had the inaugural M-Akiba. So it's an April-October bond. So it is very easy, so you don't get confused. So when you have any bond, see when it was issued. If it was issued in September, then it is a September, March bond. If it is January, it would be January, July. So that's a convention. So how do you make your money in M-Akiba? So you know that you'll get your money through the interest payment and when you get your money back.
Right.
Yeah, so and then M-Akiba, unlike other bonds, it's actually guaranteed. The 10% will not change. Other bonds, sometimes it can, based on the interest rates and all that, it can decrease or increase. But for M-Akiba, it's actually constant at the 10%. That is the rate that you can actually get your money. So if you've invested 3,000, that means you'll be getting 300. But even what will make you even think twice about M-Akiba is if you put in more. The more you put in, the better the return.
Right.
So for M-Akiba, I would tell you confidently, if you have 3 million, you want a jackpot or something, put in M-Akiba than even putting in rental income. Because we can simply do the maths. So for 3 million, 10% is 300,000. Remove 1 0. so 3 million, it becomes 300,000.
Yeah.
And then if we were to see maybe how much rental income that would be, we divide by 12 months. So that would be 300,000. If we divide by 12, that would be 25,000. So with 3 million Kenya shillings today, can you get a rental return of 25,000 every month? You don't have any tax because it is tax-free, and no hassling with tenants and or any other stamp duty or anything. The answer is you can't.
You can't.
For 25,000, maybe to get a rental income of 25,000, you need to invest something like 9 million or something there. It would take time. But for M-Akiba, you just start earning immediately. So the beauty about M-Akiba is that you can put in huge amounts. And the last offer, I had someone who had 5 million, and I encouraged them to put in M-Akiba because the more you put in, the better the return.
Right.
And then also how to make more money using M-Akiba, hold till maturity. What that simply means is that every 6 months you'll be paid. So hold M-Akiba until the last interest payment. That way you'll be getting, every year you'll get your 10%, and you get your money back at the end of it. So that's how you get the most money out of M-Akiba. And then another tip would be, when you're investing in M-Akiba, do it when there is an offer. We recently had an offer. When we have an offer, it's like an IPO. You see, like an IPO, it comes as an offer, or maybe when you see there's a sale somewhere. So during any sale, and maybe I can hint, the next one will be probably towards the end of this month. So
you had it here first, guys. You had it here first.
Yes, so make a date. And when we open it, it's an offer. That means we have the primary, what we call the primary market. That's like an IPO or an offer market. In the offer market, we don't have market fees, other market fees. So for your 3,000, if you are to trade right now, actually right now you can still get M-Akiba, but you'd pay for 3,000, you'd pay 10 shillings and 5 cents. Those are the market charges. So part of those charges go to make sure that anytime you want to get out, you can actually get out. And then also to ensure that if it is NSE, CMA, CDSC, everybody gets paid, the service providers for the service. That's the service. But when you do it during the offer, that market fee is removed. But even looking at it rationally, 10 shillings, 5 cents surely, I mean, you can afford. There's no even bus fare of 10 bob.
Like, it's not going to break your back.
Yes, it's not going to break. So, because it is actually meant to be a savings product. So, even without the offer, you can actually get into M-Akiba at any time. And that's why I told you, dial *889#. And you can already start your journey. So tomorrow between 9 and 3 a.m., we have what we call the secondary market. And it is there from Monday to Friday. So during the secondary market, you actually can be topping up. So I have this habit every time, maybe I've gotten some, maybe 100 bob or even 1,000, or I have some tunes on M-Pesa. I just put in M-Akiba. Yeah, and also if you have some money in PesaLink during the offer, you can actually get to push it. I did that. My wife actually invested before I did. So we invest also as a family. So we put in M-Akiba because it has guaranteed return. And also it's a cool way, because if your money is just remaining in the bank, how much interest are you getting?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but if you put it in M-Akiba, it actually starts earning for you. So those are different ways you can earn money. So the interest payments, the money, you get back your money. And then also the more you put in, the better the return for you. And then thirdly, it's good when you can target those offers and put in as much, especially through PesaLink, and then, or even M-Pesa. And then anytime you want to put in money, put it in. You have some money even right now, but okay, you can't get in between, other than 9 to 3 during
It really has to be during trading hours.
During trading hours.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's a great way to get your money. So what we're saying is that it has guaranteed, it's a guaranteed way of getting your money. So again, back to M-Akiba. Simple, convenient, great value.
Great value. But David, if I'm being completely honest with
Tell
you,
me.
you've really, really preached a very good game.
Yes.
And it almost sounds too good to be true.
Yes.
And you know, I've been told, like, it almost sounds too good to. Are there even any risks involved, or is all perfect? It's that one business venture you go into and just sit back, relax, have no worries. Yeah. I really want to know the downside. So by the time the audience is done, they're ready to go into this, but they also know what they're facing in terms of risks.
No. I think it's always prudent.
Yes.
And I didn't say there are no maybe downsides to M-Akiba. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, for example, when you invest in M-Akiba, you're getting 10% tax-free. So tomorrow you may have maybe a deal, maybe a business deal that is going to give you a higher interest rate than that. So what you should do, sell M-Akiba and get into that deal. So if you get a deal that is giving you 20% tax-free, sell M-Akiba. So one of the things we've done under the convenience of M-Akiba, we have what we call the secondary market, or we allow you to sell. So if you have your M-Akiba, you have an emergency, or you have a good emergency, an opportunity, you can sell M-Akiba and go on to it, because this becomes like the base. This is what we call an investment tree. So in the investment tree, we have the low risk and then the high risk. So high risk means high return, low risk means low return. But in any case, we are saying our 10% is also really something to start from. Yeah, so that would be one item, maybe the rate of return. And then also secondly, maybe you may be thinking, out of 3,000, I'm actually only getting 300. But look at it. If you get into business, there are other risks that are involved.
Of course.
But what we are saying with M-Akiba, it's money working for you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've read maybe Robert Kiyosaki's book, The Cash Flow Quadrant. So what M-Akiba will essentially be doing for you is that it will be taking you from either employed, self-employed quadrant, where you work for your money, to passive investments, where money works for you. So we have the investor quadrant and the business owners quadrant. So with M-Akiba, whether you're self-employed or employed, you can start making a shift towards the investment quadrant, where it's your money working for you. So if you have some money, you put there. And then I'd also, maybe those are the two major things I've seen, but also mine is a challenge, even to parents, to also encourage and even start investing for their children. M-Akiba is not just about, and I'll share yet another story. This one was a bit...
Real quick, because my director is killing me, but I want to hear this story. So I want you to share it in exactly 1 minute.
1 minute.
Yeah.
All right. When we began M-Akiba, something devastating had happened. When we were growing up, you all knew about congestina.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, even boys' schools will tell you, I'll conge you, don't joke with me. So, but she couldn't be able to pay maybe a one-room house that was charging 2,000 per month. And that was really a bad issue for her, because she couldn't relate the trophies and everything she had compared to the challenges she was facing. And of course, we saw it on TV. There was a psychiatrist involved, and that was what they diagnosed. And her cry was that if only we had a government would take care of her, like maybe Mike Tyson and other people. But I'm grateful that M-Akiba is there, that you can actually have your money working for you. And I just wished if only she had invested earlier in M-Akiba, that would have been not the situation, because you'll be still having your money and then also the other income that is there. So I would encourage, and there are so many Kenyans out there that are probably, maybe in one way or another, you currently in a good situation, invest. You never go wrong when you invest. So the Swahili people say, Akiba haiozi. So ladies and gentlemen, weka akiba kwa M-Akiba.
David, thank you very much for coming to the show. I have nothing useful to add. This is the first show where I have barely interjected. You are truly a fountain of M-Akiba knowledge. Thank you so much. I'm sure all of you out home knows exactly what to do when it comes to investing in M-Akiba, the kind of risks involved and the kind of returns, and it's definitely a good investment. Thank you very much for coming, and we'll definitely be having you on the show several more times to come.
All right. Thank you
Unfortunately,
so much.
we've come to the end, but before I go, I'll leave you with a financial tip. Loaning the government money tends to be one of the safest investment options available in the market. While there are no guarantees when it comes to investing, buying government debt through options like treasury bills tends to be as close as you can get to a low-risk use of your cash. Initially, you had to have a minimum of 100,000 to buy a treasury bill or bond, but now you can invest with as little as 3,000 through M-Akiba, which raises funds for infrastructure development. To invest in a T-bill, you can either open a central depository system account with the Central Bank of Kenya or approach your bank for the service. Well, thank you very much, and that's where we wrap it up for today. But as usual, you can keep the conversation going on our social media handles at Metropole TV KE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm Ingrid Nantege. Have a wonderful evening.